Hello everybody, again, it's Friday again, and may I just say that time is literally flying. The first week of September is over. Marketing season has kicked off, so practically the summer is kind of ended for a lot of us in international education, and I was very happy over the past weekend to read about all of the schools, the agencies, the organizations who received awards and who obviously received some kind of recognition for all the work that they do in our industry. So let me start this video by just saying a big well done to all of you, and it's nice that your work does not go unnoticed. But today we're here to talk about another aspect, another point when it comes to marketing within the field of international education. And as we announced on our social media channels over the past days, the point that we're going to discuss today is how to make the most of your online presence. We're always going on about, and I especially am always going on about how important it is to have a social media presence. But is it okay to just be present, or should there be some kind of strategy behind it? And as you're probably already anticipated, yes, there should be some kind of strategy behind it. So today we're going to discuss three main points when it comes to this topic. First of all, we're going to look at the importance of visibility. It is very important to have online visibility, but by visibility I don't mean that you should, just have a profile, or you should just have a page, or you should just have an account. You need to be present, and more than present, you need to be consistent. Over and above that, for your brand to be recognizable, so if you want people to recognize you and to remember that this is this particular school, this is that particular agency, yes, these are the guys who do this, or these are the people who normally share that, you need to be unique. And obviously, perhaps the easiest way for you guys to be unique is to stick to your brand guidelines. What this means is that if, like most people and most brands and most businesses do, you have your colors. The colors that appear on your logo. Sometimes they are not just the colors that appear on your logo. For example, if you take a look at Schools and Agents, the Schools and Agents logo is white, grey and blue, which is very standard. However, in our brand kit, we also include an orange and a lighter blue. So if you look at the majority of our images on our social media, the majority of our images that we use, even on articles that we publish ourselves, you would find these colors. You would find the Schools and Agents blue, I call it, and you would also find a lighter blue and an orange, which don't appear on the logo, but which are part of our brand kit. And it's very important that whenever you're sharing images, visuals, which belong to your company, to include these colors as well. So like that, people will start to make a connection between those particular colors and your brand. Remember that different people learn and remember things in different way. And especially for those who are perhaps more visual learners, it's going to be much easier for them to remember who you are and what you do by associating your brand with particular colors. So like that, you are catering for the different kinds of learners, different kinds of people out there. So that is the first point that I wanted to make today, and that is related to visibility. A question, and this brings me to the second point, a question that we get asked very often is, which platforms should we be present on? There are many social media platforms. Social media is something that is constantly evolving, constantly changing. New platforms pop up like popcorn sometimes. So it's good to keep an eye out for all the platforms which could be interesting, but it's also good to start to identify which are the ones that could be useful for you as a brand, as a school, as an agency, and as a service provider within our industry. My first go-to answer, and this is one which we use ourselves at schools and agents, is that we always recommend having a presence where your target audience has a presence. What does this mean? It means that if on Facebook, for example, you tend to find agents, you tend to find parents, then it's good to have a presence on Facebook if that is your target audience, if you want to communicate with this target audience. If on Instagram you find a lot of agents, but you also find Instagram as a good platform which allows you to share beautiful photos about your school, you should have a presence on Instagram. Also, if, for example, your target audience is somewhere between 25 and 40, 45, even higher, those people tend to have an Instagram account. So if you want to target those kinds of people, then you need to be present on Instagram as well. LinkedIn, one of my favorite platforms. LinkedIn is excellent for B2B, which is why it's one of my favorite platforms, because Schools and Agents is a company that caters for B2B. We don't deal with direct students. So for us, having a presence on social media platforms where you would normally and traditionally find students is not that necessary. But a platform like LinkedIn, which is a platform where we find a lot of schools, we find a lot of agents, we find a lot of service providers, then LinkedIn is a very, very important platform for us. And in fact, if we had to look at the statistics, LinkedIn is the strongest platform for schools and agents, which again goes to sustain the argument that you need to have a presence wherever your audience is present, because if you do that, then you're going to be successful on social media. There are other platforms. TikTok is a famous one. For example, Schools and Agents does not have a TikTok account because we don't really cater for the students, the younger students, the teenagers. But if you are a school that caters for those kinds of students, then yes, you should have a TikTok account as well. Another important one is YouTube. YouTube is excellent if you want to share videos about your school, if you want to share testimonials, if you want to share interviews with key players in your company. So YouTube is, as you know, an excellent platform for video content. And then there's also Twitter. Twitter is, a lot of people ask me about Twitter sometimes. Twitter is a bit tricky because obviously with Twitter we are restricted as to how many characters we can share. So it's not a place where you can really share a long message. But if you're interested in perhaps establishing yourself as a person who's an expert in a particular field within international education, then Twitter is an excellent platform for that, because it allows you to share insights, it allows you to share points of view. So for that reason, it's excellent. To bring this to a close, to bring this second point to a close, kind of in summary, what I would say is that all of these platforms are necessary. All of these platforms are useful. Perhaps useful is a better word than necessary. All of these platforms are useful if and only if you can be consistent on all of them. And this final part is very important. If you cannot be consistent on all of these platforms, then it's better to not have them. And I'll share a personal experience over here. At the beginning, at Schools and Agents, we used to have a Twitter account. However, we used to struggle a little bit with the kind of content to share on Twitter, since we mainly share articles, we mainly share written content, especially content that comes from our clients, from our schools, our agents and our service providers. Sometimes we used to struggle quite a bit to kind of share the right part of the article on Twitter. And for that reason, after a few years, we decided to do away with Twitter. And nowadays, Schools and Agents does not have a Twitter account. So it is very important to, again, observe, to monitor the kinds of platforms that your company and your brand can and should use, and make sure that the ones that you are using are the ones where you have a consistent presence on. Otherwise, it's better to not have an account. And to move on to my third and final point today, another way in which you can make the most of your online presence on social media is to connect with your target audience. And this links to the point that I was making previously. So if you, for example, want to have a presence on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn, you need to make sure that you truly understand who the target audience on all of these different platforms would be. Why? Because the way in which you communicate with students is completely different from the way in which you communicate with agents and with parents. And this needs to be reflected in your social media messages as well. So what that means is that probably cross-sharing things on all of your platforms to try and make your lives easy is not such a good idea. Because if your audience on Facebook is A, your audience on LinkedIn is B, and your audience on TikTok is C, then you need to be crafting different messages, different images, and different captions for all of these different platforms. So just creating one post and thinking that like that you've got all of your social media platforms covered is a shortcut, but it's not the right way. So it's very important to keep in mind who your target audience is and make sure that you are engaging with your target audience in a way, in a language which this target audience understands. With that, with those three important points, I will bring this video to a close and I will go to continue enjoying the public holiday together with the rest of my family. So I would like to take this opportunity to wish you all a lovely weekend. And as always, if you have any questions, if you would like to have a chat about how perhaps you can use your social media platforms more efficiently, just drop me a line. You know where to contact me. This video will be present on all of our social media channels because our target audience is interested in this video across all the channels that we use. And you can drop me a message over there and we'll schedule a call. Until then, until next week and until the next video, have a lovely weekend.